I think if you haven't watched Les Miserables, that's you haven't been to theater yet. Let's just say, I don't think Miss Saigon
Mm.
would be good for a proscenium. I'd like it to be an arena. Some will say that's impossible.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the newest episode of TTYL, yeah, Talk to You Literature podcast. And in this episode, we will talk and we will discuss further about drama, about theater, about play. And in this episode, I will be accompanied by a stage director, whom uh, and here we have Mr. Jason. Well, I used to watch his production, his drama in my sister's school's drama production, and now I would like to ask several questions for him. To him, hello, Mr. Jason.
Hello. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening to your viewers. I don't know when you're gonna show this, but
I
yes.
think that would be up to them when they want
All
to access this video.
right. Okay. All
How
right.
are
Hello
you
to you.
doing?
Good. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, so how is the working from home situation with
Well,
you
you know
there?
how it is. We're all stuck in in our own places for a long time, but we're managing. We're managing. It would be good to have students in front of us, but yeah, it's better that we're safe than sorry.
Okay, then. Okay, Mr. Jason, I think, well, I would like to start this, what, mini interview
All
with a
right.
with a question. I think it's quite cliche, but if you don't mind, why drama? Why theater? Why is it so what make you intrigued to it?
Oh, okay.
Perhaps.
Well, because I come from the Philippines, our culture there is very open to the arts, and it's part of our cultural blood, if I could say it that way, that most kids sing or dance or are expected to perform in some way. In family gatherings, you will have the children coming up, and then the aunties and uncles will start saying, hey, why don't you sing for us, or why don't you dance something for us? It's so everybody is like kind of required to come up with some performance. So even from young, I was exposed to that, and of course in school there were several opportunities to be part of productions. And in one production, um, I was able to join a what you would say a more professional one, even though
Mhm.
when I was young. So when I saw how actors prepared themselves and got themselves ready, I felt that it was really cool. It was very inspiring to see all the other people around me older. So I had models performing, especially my brother, who was also one of the main stars of the production. So that started my love for the theater, and then I just kept on doing it until I eventually had so many productions. Yep.
Wow. Okay, and perhaps I would like to continue on, if you don't mind, by getting your thoughts on what actually a director do in a production. I think compared to in a movie, does it have any differences or perhaps similarities that perhaps people do not know?
Well, um, the main function of a director, even though even in movies, is to provide vision, is to provide everyone a big picture view of how a production should be. Now, of course, the technical aspect of it and the nitty gritty of it will be different. Yeah. Um, so uh, it is upon the director's shoulders how a show should be staged or a show should be filmed. And everybody else in the production would have to realize the dream or the idea that's inside the director's head. So every actor will pick their cue from the director. Every cameraman, every light man, every stage prop maker will take their cue from what the director is thinking. And it's basically, if we would compare this to an artist and his painting, the the director is the artist, the canvas is the stage or film, all the colors and the brushes are the actors and the stage people and everybody else, you know. So that's what it is.
And then, since as you have mentioned before, there are so many things that you have to concentrate on, so many relationships that you have to manage. And then, how do you really focus on what will be like the maximum impact in the production? Like, because you have to control a lot of things, right? And then, is there a way to focus
Well,
on one thing, so
mhm.
one or two things?
Well, most, unless you have a lot of funding, the the director is normally alone in a lot of things. Yeah, you're multitasked.
You're
Yeah,
multitask.
but if you do have funding enough to have more people, most productions, even in movies, you would have two areas. You have the production staff, and then you have the artistic group, the artistic staff. Um, these two groups have their own functions, but the director, like what I said, provides the vision or the direction for all these two groups. So anything that is about finances, about logistics, about the practical side of things will be handled by the production staff. So the director, as an artist, is free to think and imagine and create. So if I want this, I'll tell the production staff, and then they'll try their best to make it happen, right? So that part is given to a
So
production crew. Yeah, is solved, right? So all the rest for the director in theater, you have lights, sound. They're under a technical team, all the special effects, and so on. But these people are under a stage manager. The stage manager is like your right hand, the director's right hand. In bigger productions, the artistic director should be absolutely free to just imagine and communicate with actors. Okay, so all the rest, like the stage props, how do we light these parts of the stage, all these are under the stage manager. Because unlike in the movies, in theater, the director's job is from the start of the rehearsals up to, of course, the last dress rehearsal. When they are on stage, the stage manager becomes the boss. The
becomes the
director
boss.
sits down in the theater and watches the
The
work
whole
happen,
thing.
right? The whole thing. So as a director, if everything is ideal, you have enough money to run the thing, and you have enough money to have people to help you out, or at least volunteers who would help you out, then you don't worry so much about everything else. Yeah. You have to have a whole crew. Yeah.
Well, I think that's true. So once you get fully supported, then you can be so what, creative and be like
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just put it on
Free,
action
right?
then. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yes.
then,
Exactly.
well, you mentioned before about stage director, sorry,
Hmm.
stage manager as well. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then,
Hmm.
does he or she helps you in determining what kind of stage you want to use? Like we know in theater there are several types of stage, like
Hmm.
dress stage, arena stage. Like, is that under your power to choose one, or
Oh,
you
of
have to
course. Of
discuss
course.
them with the
Um, well, at the preliminary talks where you talk with the producer, the guy who's going to fund everything, um, they would normally tell you where the production would be, right? So another one who would control the idea or is influential to the idea is the scriptwriter. Now, if the scriptwriter intentionally created the script for a proscenium stage or a thrust stage or an arena, then the director would have to give life to that idea, okay,
Yes.
from the script. Okay, so those two people would influence the choices of the director. Yeah, but do they consider what the director will say, what kind of stage? Of course, yeah. Let's just say, I don't think Miss Saigon
Mm.
would be good for a proscenium. I'd like it to be an arena. Some will say that's impossible because in Miss Saigon you'll have a helicopter, right?
Yes.
And normally you need a proscenium. A proscenium, to those who don't know what a proscenium is, it's a recessed stage. It's behind an arch where you have a curtain. That's normally the stage that you have in many places, like Gedung Kesenian Jakarta. That's a proscenium stage. I think the Ciputra Theater also is a proscenium
Yes.
stage.
Listening stage.
Yeah, so there's a curtain that can cover things. So when you have all these special effects, you can hide them at the back or behind these arches or in their
Yes.
side stage, yeah, with your curtains. Now the arena, on the other hand, is that all the audience is just around you. Okay, there's nothing. So the set normally is very minimal. There's nothing much because it's gonna block the view of people around you or behind you. So uh, yes, the director can change the whole idea because he's the director, right? But there are two people who will basically tell him, "You're nuts," or "That's impossible," or "It's too expensive," or all these things. So it's really a collaborative thing, not just one person's idea.
I see. Okay, then. So
Yeah.
that was more or less about the technical things. And now I would like to ask your opinion um, in when you are approaching the actor. Like, um, what I want to know is how do you choose one? Like as the director, how
Casting. Um,
yes,
it's one of the most challenging ones, especially well if it's a professional production where professional actors come in, or at least older guys, yeah, not children or not teenagers. Um, it's easier because they audition for the part and they know it's easier on them emotionally to accept a yes or a no. Is it
yeah,
a yes or a no? When you deal with children and teenagers, the no becomes a little more challenging because it might break their heart.
yes,
Or you give them a role that they were aiming for. Let's say they were aiming for Princess Jasmine in Aladdin, yeah?
yes,
But they were given the role of the assistant, right? So there will be some kids who will be they want to quit, or they don't want to be there anymore, and so on. So uh, though that's the challenge for a casting person, it would be mainly really looking at the script and trying to fit the person with the character in the script. Okay. Initially, you'd try to look for, if it's a musical, then it's range first, talent first, right? If the student can't really sing the part, it's very difficult to realize the character, right? And then of course the overall charisma of the character, though they may not really look the part, they should approximate the part, or else the chemistry and the whole idea of the show becomes a little off because the characters don't appear the way they're supposed to be. Now that becomes a little bit tricky because some people will think, you're a bit discriminatory, or something like that, right? But if the script says old man in his 50s, tall, or and so on and so forth, of course you can't cast that person in that character. So you really have to match the person, the actor, with the character as much as you can. So the choices are difficult, but you just have to do it that way.
and then in your experience, yeah, um, was there any a event, or there was any have a chance that you need to change, or the condition made you need to change the actor, like along the way the production? Would that be possible, or like?
Yes, of course. There are times that it's like that. Unforeseen, yeah, unforeseen. Like the actor got sick or has to leave the country, or the parents just suddenly said, "Nope, no more," because
Yeah.
the rehearsals were just too many. So they
Yeah.
say, "No more. You're not going to be part of that thing anymore." There are times that it's like that. But if it's in an artistic decision, like, I think you'll be better doing this role than that role, and then this friend of yours is better to do that role.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens. But you'd really have to talk to them and make sure that they understand why. And many times, they themselves say it. You know, I think you're yeah
I
you're
see.
it's better that you're here than, unless this person is particularly ambitious, wants to be in that higher role. Because there are really some who have their dreams, who have their dreams there. But you really have to tell them, no, I have to tell you no. Uh, so yeah, you win some, you lose some.
Okay, then.
Uh,
Well, the next thing that I really would like to know is that, do you bring new life to old writings and then like in your
like
production?
reinterpret them.
Yes.
Um,
Um,
well, many of my productions were my own writing,
I
so
see.
it's easy enough to change whatever needs to be changed, right? But if I had a production from a licensed agent or a company, you are constrained by copyright laws. You have some wiggle room, right? You have some wiggle room where you can still interpret a particular play in a different way, but you cannot change the songs, you cannot change the beat of the songs, you cannot change the script or the original intention of the writer. Okay?
Okay.
Or else you'll be in deep trouble. They will they will get you into, because many of my shows were under Disney,
Okay.
or Music Theater International, New York. So you have to sign a contract with them saying, I'm gonna stick to what's on the script, right?
I
But of
see.
course, your choice of props, your choice of lighting, your choice of what's funny and what's funnier, still remains your call as a director. But everything else, it has to be intact. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I think as a response to that, like, to you have mentioned that perhaps you can change the props, you can change everything's
Mm,
related, but not
mm,
to the plot. But
mm,
um, like for example, if there are stories or there are script there which is not suitable perhaps to be done by high school students, for
mm,
example, like
mm.
would that be possible for you to change like one or two characters in it, or like what would that be possible?
It's possible, but you have to research if they already have a school edition. So there are certain companies who simplify very difficult pieces, or who have adult themes in them or very violent themes in them, and they make it more palatable or more it's adapted to children or to teenagers, or basically below 18 or below 17, yeah,
Yes.
minor audience. So there are existing school or junior editions, but if there aren't, you'd have to ask permission from the author. Write an email or whatever. I'm doing this for the school, etc. But the moment you start charging fees for audience, it's out on the public. You really need to tell the author about it. Though in Asia, there's just so many people who just ignore that. But if
Yes.
you really want to be a legally safe person, yeah, you'd rather not. You go through the process, ask the author, is it okay or is it not okay? Or maybe he will help you. You see, sometimes that happens.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, um, I think I will just go to the next question with
Sure.
I would like to know which one or what is the most memorable production, or one of the most memorable production that you have done.
As a director,
Yeah.
well, it's kind of, you know, this might end up with, well, my own actors will start watching this or watching this podcast and they say, which one? Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this. It's in those productions where you find, because I'm a teacher, right? I'm an educator, so it's in those productions where you see students or the actors start from here and then become this. They
Yes.
they gain self-esteem. They become more friendly. They become, they become more confident. Um, they end up coming back to you after years of being in your show and still say thank you for what you've done, or thank you for getting me into the show because it has changed me, it has made me a better person. And I think those are the productions that I think are most memorable, where the actors, I still remember their faces. I still remember how they were when they first came, very shy. They sing like a bird, very beep beep beep, only like that, but at the end, they're in front of 1,000 or 2,000 people, singing and dancing. So those are the productions that I would say until now
Memorable.
I really, yeah, I really remember them.
And then I think I still remember that my sister used to tell me stories when you are involved in a production as an actor, and then
Uh-huh.
she said that there's something with it. Trying what I don't know. She was saying that you were supposed to be dancing on the stage, but
Okay.
later on the D-Day, something strange happened. Like when the formation is changing into a pyramid or something. Like there's metaphysical experience, I think, that um you shared to them. Was
Oh boy,
with
she
them.
remembers. She remembers something I don't really remember now. Well, there were a few things. Well, there was. I think it's a mix of stories that came into one story.
I
Yeah.
see. I
So,
see.
so there was a time that, yeah, because we were up for a. If it was metaphysical, something supernatural, then
Yes.
yes. Because there was a time that I wrote stories, musicals for religious groups. So we had one that was particularly moving. It moved a lot of people in the audience and so on. So we felt that there was this presence that was there, not scary, but more reassuring. Yeah,
Okay.
more reassuring, saying that, telling us that you did well.
I see.
You had us there, and you brought out the message quite well. So it was no ghost or whatever. It was more of a, you know
Okay.
but yes, that's how it is. Yeah.
And then before you became a director, did you start it as an actor first, or you just
Yes.
directly as
Yeah,
oh
yeah. Well, like I told you, when I was young, um, I started off acting in several productions like King and I, and others, original shows in my home city. And the nice thing about it was I was under professional directors. I mean, directors who really did huge productions in the Philippines then. So I was lucky to have that experience, and yeah, I acted in part, not just part, but also main roles, major roles. So mostly
so
musicals, mostly singing
yeah.
parts.
If previously you have shared to us the most memorable production for you as a director, but now what if
Mm.
as an actor then? Which production where you are casted as the actor that you
Well,
would
yeah. So
consider?
memorable, yeah. Well, there
Yes.
was one, but not, it was The King and I was only 16, or no, wait, I was 17 if I'm not mistaken. Um, or younger. Anyway, around there. It's just a long time ago. A super long time ago. So I was the Fralak. I don't know if you know The King and I, but he's this assistant of the emperor, right?
I see.
And I had to run on the stage and deliver a warning or a message. And instead of bowing this way, because The King and I is about the Siam, right? So it was still, you had to bow to the
You have
to
to
the
go.
king, right? So I had to run and bow. What happened is I ran and slipped and fell on my hands and my behind, and then I twirled and bowed at the emperor, and his eyes were so, he didn't know how to react to what was going on. That was a live show. That was a live show when I still delivered my lines, and I crawled back out, and it was really painful. But after the show ended, what was nice was when I came out for what they call each and every actor,
Yes.
and then you bow in front. So that was a curtain call, and when I came out, oh, the audience was like, "Whoa!" because of that small mistake that I did. They were very supportive, so I still remember that clearly, even though that was like almost 30, 40 years ago. 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Wow, I still remember that.
Okay, then I think I've come to the very last question then for today.
Sure. Wow.
Um,
Okay.
since that I don't know, perhaps this is correct me if I'm wrong, but I think people nowadays are more exposed to movies rather than to theater and drama. So, um, if is there any what is there any particular drama or play or musical that you would suggest us, so the audience or particularly students, to watch, which is might be more like I don't know, that they can relate nowadays, like some things that you should have watched this one, or you should have, no, you should know about this story, for example.
Well, if it's something that young kids can relate to, and it's safe for their viewing, it's always the Disney shows. It's always the Disney shows.
Okay.
Into the Woods, Seussical, Mulan, Aladdin. Those are reinterpretations of movies that have come
Movie.
out, right? But Into the Woods, I think, was a play first.
At least.
So um, those are shows. Those category of shows are I would say very good for the younger generation to watch. But if you really want uh, an actual theater performance that was really meant for the theater, you can watch Once on This Island. Once on This Island, the one where your sister was part of, because that was really we showed that a couple of times, here in Jakarta, and even in Bandung, we did that. So that's a particularly powerful show. Another one, but get the school edition, Les Miserables. It's a classic. It's a classic. Those are classics. Les Miserables, Phantom of the Opera. Um, if you're a dancer, Cats would be good. Cats would be particularly interesting. But I think if you haven't watched Les Miserables, that's, you haven't been to theater yet. Okay, you have to watch Les Miserables. But of course, for younger kids, you have to have read the story, or at least a summary of it, because the whole thing is sung. Is it from beginning to end? That's 2.5 hours of singing. So if you get into that, come in with an idea of what the show is all about.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think that will be all, Mr. Jason. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your experience, your insights. It's pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you for having me. I hope I was able to share some good stuff for everyone out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day today.
You too. You too. Thank you.